Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you love shocking, real-life inspired stories of betrayal, deception, and ultimate revenge, you're in the right place. I came home that evening expecting the usual, my kids rushing to hug me, my wife, Lisa, calling out from the kitchen, the warmth of my family wrapping around me like a blanket. But instead, I walked into silence. Lisa. I called, setting my keys down. Kids. No response. The house felt wrong. Too empty. I walked into the living room, my stomach twisting into knots. The toy bin in the corner was gone. The little shoes usually piled by the door, missing. My chest tightened as I ran upstairs, throwing open the closet doors. Empty. The dressers? Drawers pulled out, nothing left. Panic set in. I yanked my phone out and dialed Lisa's number. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. I called again. And again. Then her sister, her best friend, even her mother, no one picked up. It was as if she had vanished from the face of the earth, taking my 3 children with her. I went to the police, but they only gave me a tired look. She's their mother, the officer said. Unless you have a custody agreement stating she can't take them, there's nothing we can do. Nothing they could do. My entire world had disappeared overnight, and they shrugged like it was just another case file. For 3 years, I searched. I hired private investigators, scoured social media, sent emails, pleaded with anyone who had ever known her. It was like chasing a ghost. I missed birthdays, Christmases, first days of school, moments I would never get back. And the worst part? I didn't even know if my children were safe. Then, one night, everything changed. I was scrolling mindlessly through social media, as I often did in the hope of finding a clue, when I saw a familiar face. Lisa. My breath caught in my throat. She was dressed in an expensive gown, standing next to a tall, sharp-looking man in a tuxedo. He had his arm around her waist. The caption read, "An amazing night at the charity gala. Proud to have my beautiful wife, Lisa, by my side." Wife. My hand shook as I clicked on the profile. The man was Robert Caldwell, a high-profile CEO. A billionaire. My stomach churned as I scrolled through the photos. Lisa looked radiant, happier than I'd ever seen her in our marriage. And in the background of one picture, my 3 children stood dressed in designer outfits, smiling for the camera. Tears burned my eyes. They looked so different, older, bigger. Had they even thought of me in these years? Had Lisa erased me completely? I knew I had to see them. The next day, I drove to the address listed in Robert Caldwell's company records. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The mansion was enormous, with perfectly manicured lawns and luxury cars parked in the driveway. I felt out of place even standing there in my worn-out jeans and jacket, but I didn't care. I rang the doorbell. My heart pounded in my ears. The door opened, and Lisa stood before me. She gasped, her face turning as white as a sheet. For a moment, we just stared at each other. I could see it in her eyes, the fear, the guilt. "Jack," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Where are my kids?" I asked, my voice rough with emotion. Before she could answer, a deep voice came from behind her. "Lisa, who's at the—" Robert Caldwell appeared beside her, looking at me with mild curiosity. But that curiosity quickly turned to something else, disgust. His gaze swept over me, taking in my cheap clothes, my unshaven face, my exhausted eyes. Then, he turned to Lisa with a cold glare. "This is your ex-husband?" he asked sharply. Lisa swallowed hard. "Robert, You told me he was dead," Robert said, his voice dangerously low. My head snapped toward her. "What?" She couldn't even look at me. My blood turned ice cold as I realized what that meant. My children, my own flesh and blood, thought I was dead. Robert stepped back, his expression twisting in revulsion. "You lied to me. You lied about everything, didn't you?" Lisa opened her mouth, but no words came out. "You told me he abandoned you. That he was an abusive deadbeat," Robert continued, his voice rising. "And all this time, you—" He stopped, shaking his head as if he couldn't even look at her anymore. You stole his kids, made him think they were gone forever, and built a life off lies. Lisa's hands trembled. Robert, please. I want a divorce. The words were final, cutting through the air like a blade. Lisa stumbled back as if she had been struck. Robert turned and walked into the house, disappearing inside without another word. I stepped forward. Lisa, where are my kids? Tears filled her eyes. For the first time, I saw real regret in them. Slowly, she turned and called out. Kids, come here. 3 small figures appeared in the doorway. My heart nearly stopped. My daughter, now 10, looked at me with a furrowed brow. Mom. Who is this? A lump formed in my throat. She didn't recognize me. I took a shaky breath, then knelt to their level, my voice soft but filled with emotion. I'm your dad. Silence. I never stopped looking for you, I whispered. They looked between me and their mother, uncertainty written all over their faces. Lisa wiped her eyes and turned away, knowing she could no longer control the narrative. I had lost 3 years. But I wasn't going to lose another second. I held out my arms. I know this is scary, but would it be okay if I hugged you? For a moment, nothing happened. Then, my youngest son, only 6, took a hesitant step forward. Then another. And another. And finally, he ran into my arms. Tears streamed down my face as I held him close. The other 2 slowly followed, wrapping their arms around me. The dam broke, and I let out a choked sob. I love you, I whispered. I love you so much. Behind us, Lisa crumbled into silent sobs, realizing that the world she had built on lies had just come crashing down. But I didn't care. I had my kids back. And no one was ever going to take them from me again. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, it really helps the channel. And if you're new here, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a jaw-dropping story like this.